Welcome to the AV Antics podcast. This is episode 1, which is fun because this could be the only time I've ever done a podcast where it could potentially be canceled after the first episode. There's a good possibility that this will be literally one and done. So the cool thing is I've got a guest with me today, which is really fun. He's not the smartest person in the world, not the most handsome person in the world, not the most articulate person in the world, but he's one of the funniest people I know, and he's a great friend of mine. John Borns is Services Development Manager here at Exertus Almo, is a coworker of mine, which is great. And so this is kind of unique. I think the backstory for you and I is unique just because of the fact that we've known each other for a long time. And have worked at different organizations together at like different intervals. So, and I know you and I have talked about this before, and I still reflect on it just in terms of like when I first met you and I first talked to you, which was an interview. Because I remember at the time, this was kind of crazy. This is when I worked at Legrand and John was being hired onto Legrand. There was like 3 supervisors or 3 managers. And the company was going through such rapid growth that there was just like hiring like crazy. So there was a group of 3 of us that literally spent 3 months every day, all day, just interviewing people.
Yeah, and the person who ended up being my manager wasn't even in the interview at all. Like I had before, that's someone who would never even interviewed me at all in the first place.
I will just say this. Some people were more comfortable interviewing than others. And that's one of the reasons why I got selected, because you didn't work for the division I worked for at the time, but I was in charge of interviewing people, conducting first and second interviews. And I remember conducting, I think it was the first interview, or maybe I did 2. I don't know if I did a first and second, or maybe it was the second. I can't really remember, but I just remember after I talked to you, I just went, I don't know like what the positions are they're open. We're just trying to figure out if people have what it takes, if those inherent characteristics and the whole thing, the things you look for in interviews. Or it's like, I don't know where you guys want people to fit in, but just hire this guy.
Does that feel to have the best answer to what's your superpower going to be if you have a superpower? Because I remember you had a bunch of like stupid off the wall questions that weren't really up at all.
One of the questions that I think I may have used in your interview was something about a pencil, like being like if you were a pencil and you were trapped in a blender, how would you get out?
It's
the most, first of all, most absurd question you could ever ask in an interview, literally ever. Like, what is that even? I didn't even know what that meant, and I used it every I probably interviewed 140 candidates that summer, and I used that every single time, and I honestly didn't care about the answer. It was like, I don't even know why I'm asking this. I think I Googled like what's a good interview question. At that time, I wasn't as polished as I probably am now, just in the fact that I've, that was how many years ago? 13 years ago?
Yeah.
Damn, that's a long time. So we've known each other for a while. And I remember Rich was just walking through the cubicles going like, let your soul pro. But anyway, so you came over to the Soul Pro team, which was really fun. So we got to work together for a little bit. And fast forward, Legrand ended up acquiring C2G, which is who we started working for. And then I quickly dipped out of that and then came to Almo and have been here ever since. And then it was great because then you were able to migrate over to Almo. Even cooler than that was you came over as the Legrand BDM, which was awesome. Obviously, that was like an obvious position for you to obtain within the organization, given the fact that you knew everything about Legrand. But then fast forward a little bit more, and now we work on the same team, and that's fun.
They kind of come back around full circle after like 10 years.
It's kind of weird. Like, do you ever wonder where we could potentially be in like 10 years, another 10 years?
No. I never do that.
Me neither. Me neither. It was like, what's your vision for the future? I'm like, you mean tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking of getting donuts in the morning. Is that what you mean by my vision for the future? Like, no, like 10 years from now. I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing 10 minutes from now. 10 years from now is a whole when it comes to business, I'm really good about that. When it comes to me personally, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I hope I don't get any more grays in my beard, which obviously you can't turn back the clock.
I don't look forward to the grays. I got like 3 or 4 of them like right here that I guard very preciously, and like I kind of want to get.
You like it?
I want to get like a really big concentrated spot of like just all gray, like how like Dave Sams has on our hockey team. Like just, like,
yeah.
So where they're out, yeah, it'll pop.
Like you have contrast, right? There's color up here, but then just gray down here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's just starting to turn gray and white in the middle.
Yeah.
That's a horrific look. It's such a bad look. And then I've just got a bunch of grays rolling through my hair now, and I'm like, I just don't.
I want to get the Reed Richards like side grays on the side.
That would cool. Do you have that kind of coming in? Are you lightening up on the side a little bit?
Well, that's it.
It's kind of tough to tell just because you keep it high, and tight. Like, could you imagine me having those with long hair and how absurd that would look? I'd finally have to cut my hair.
You look like the Bride of Dracula.
I would. I want to suck your blood. What's it? Is it Elvira? Wait, what is that from?
Thing. That's all a different thing.
Who's Elvira? That's from Addams Family.
That's
not
like
Addams
70s
Family.
movie.
Monster.
No.
Yeah, what was that?
It's a movie all by itself.
Nosferatu? That's something completely different. Anyway, so we now work on the same team, which is fantastic. And you've done an incredible job. And it's kind of crazy thinking how like you've been really on this team for what, like 6 months? And I've always kind of said just at 6 months, right? Like August at our last NSM was like your official start date that Monday. And what's interesting is like, I have always found it not in just distribution as a whole, but just even the services position because of it's just different, right? Like it's you know this and you could articulate this is vastly different from the hardware side. So there is this kind of learning curve that you have to go through. And I always anticipate that, hey, for someone to really get their footing, it's going to take 6 months to 9 months just to like start to feel comfortable and get your footing. But you really did that in like more of an accelerated fashion. It was like, I think like 2 or 3 months in, you're like, I got this. But you still ask questions about things and, hey, what about this? What about this? And you're still learning stuff. But like getting your footing and being able to make an impact, you probably did faster than most people. So that's my kudos to you.
Yeah, it's been interesting understanding, like, it's one thing to understand the types of services that we have, understanding the why we have them and why customers want to use them and why customers don't want to use them sometimes and why they can find the right fit. And there's, like you mentioned with like the hardware sales, so much of distribution is having the right stuff on the shelf at the right time. But like in services, like nothing's sitting there on the shelf, right? It's all has to be planned and accounted for and budgeted for. And, you know, getting customers to look at us as a strategic like resource, not just for something that like I need something tomorrow, but like I need to plan my business strategies more efficiently, and you can help me do that and try to find those customers. But when we find them, they make a lot of sense and they work great. But it's getting that like trying to be both things, right? Being a distributor who has stuff on the shelf and they can ship it right away, and being a customer, a place that you can, budget your next design project for. Is a little different. So,
and vastly like different sales cycles too. Like I just remember just the reactionary aspects when I was in what we'll call traditional sales at Exertis Almo years ago, was like there was a lot of times just like, yeah, you're prepping and planning for things, but you're also more often than not like reacting to stuff in terms of like hardware. Like you said, price, part number, availability, do you have it? Can you move it? And there's that immediate transaction, which is almost an immediate gratification too. Like I can see things hit. It's like, boom, it goes out the door. I can see it in the numbers. I know I've moved this inventory, and now I can account for this thing in real time as far as developing the rest of my month. Where in services, then you can have a conversation with the customer, and then they're ready to go 8 months later.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I get emails from people who I introduced myself to back in August, and they're replying just now, and I'm like, wait, what did you want in the first place? Like, I don't remember what you're talking about. Like, it's been 6 months, dude. I'm deleting files over here. Like, I don't have time to keep it up with your requests from August.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like we've had projects.
It's like, oh, I figured it out.
Yeah, I mean that's the great part. Is like, how did people do this before email?
I haven't had a job that didn't have email involved. I don't know. Like everyone's entire job is just doing emails. Like you talk to someone like at a conference, like, hey, we do it later. I'm going to the hotel room, just do emails. That's just where your job is, doing emails. Like, what would you have done? You just walk around and like hand paper to people, like.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Write in my notebook and exchange this piece of paper with someone else? I'm gonna put it in the mail. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go back to my hotel room. I'm gonna write something. I'm gonna put it in an envelope, and then I'm gonna stick it in the mail. Then we're gonna send it off.
Which makes it's even funnier because we can go on a whole tangent about how people type emails. But you think for a world that revolves around email so much, people would be better at doing emails.
Oh,
that's my hot take. People need to do emails better.
I'm kind of bad at. I mean, dude, I have the Grammarly plugin. I got all kinds of stuff.
Oh, you're also functionally illiterate, so that's fine.
I am. I've said this before. I can listen. I can't read. I can hear things and absorb them. You asked me to read things in an email. I literally have my emails read to me, which seems
That's
ridiculous.
for old
But
people, Cory.
when the email's long enough, though, man, you know as well as I do, if you see an email that you have to scroll, tell me if I'm lying. It pauses you for a second, and you in your head you go, I do not want to read this.
I said,
If you have
I kind of like her, I kind of like, it's just like, I like to get like a cup of coffee and a blanket, like, snuggle in for a nice long email.
story time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just save that long email. You get it the night before. You're like, I'm not going to read it now because I'm going to snuggle
Yeah.
tomorrow morning with my hot cocoa and my warm heated blanket so we can have story time.
Yeah,
I can't do that. I just have it read it to me. And not every email. If the email is like one sentence, obviously I'm not like going in and having it read it to me. But if it's paragraphs, it's going to read it to me. Actually, cheat code. If someone sends me a long Zoom or a long something in anything, even if it's like a blog, I'll copy and paste everything in the blog, put it in an email, and then have it read it to me. I go that far.
You can put in ChatGPT and have it summarize the email for you.
Oh, I should do that. Speaking of, so that's actually one of the topics that we're going to talk about was AI and its influence interrelated to AV. And I was interested to understand from you because you're a worldly person in terms of you know what's going on. You're not in like a little siloed whatever, and you're not isolated from news and things and tech and all that. How often are you using ChatGPT? No wrong answer. How often are you using ChatGPT integrated into what you do in your job or even just outside your job, just recreationally?
I use it more now than, I mean, I've only known about it for like a year or so. And since this summer when I had a lot of time to work with it, the project we did, I use it more often. It has its ups and downs. Like it's really cool for if you're trying to come up with like an idea, like if you're trying to come up with like a team name for a fantasy football team or whatever, but you have like you can't think of any inspiration. You can put in like, I need a really punny football fantasy team name that involves a player from that one. That one, David Njoku. Like I want a pun football team name is David Njoku's name, and it'll just spin up a bunch of options. Maybe you don't pick the one, but maybe it'll give you an idea of like a joke you can find in there somewhere. It just kind of like get a train rolling. It's also good if you don't know how to say something a certain way. Like, if you're typing an email, as I can tell a customer bad news, you could tell them like, hey, I need like give me a template, or like telling a customer that like I'm going to have to like decline this PO or something, or this service that we did went sideways.
Like a tactful, like a tactile.
Yeah, you have to punch in the meat of it to make it make sense. But like, you've got to get like a framework for how to start, like how to like structure an email you're gonna send. I think it applies a lot in marketing for sure. I know a lot of companies using it for like content creation, for e-blasts and for website blurbs, some of that. So I think there's definitely applications.
I mean, it's how this name got generated. So,
is it really?
Well, it was like I thought about it before. I will say this. It was a name that I already thought about because I wrote down like 5 different names. And it was the one that kind of made most sense for what I wanted this to be. But at the same time, not only did it make sense, but I wanted to validate how much it made sense. And then, of course, I wanted, like you, I went to ChatGPT. I'm like, maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe there's something better. And actually, AV Antics was one that it also spit out in ChatGPT, which only validated what I had already wrote down. So it did and it didn't in a sense. But I was just like, okay, well, then if ChatGPT says it's a good name, then it's got to be a good name.
So you don't like my Amplify This podcast name I gave you?
No, that's good too. Dude, I wrote down like 5 or 6 that I really.
We could have had a picture of the movie poster with Sandler and De Niro, and they could have pasted their faces on there. Could have amplified
that.
That
Actually would have been really awesome.
Who would you be?
Listen, it's not too late to redo this. Just kidding.
Are you Sandler? Wait, De Niro, whose face you putting? Whose body you putting your face on?
Whose body am I putting my face on?
If you took like,
I know.
Analyze this. Was it De Niro or is it Jack Nicholson?
It's Jack Nicholson. No, it's. Wait, and Analyze This?
So I'm getting.
It's Billy Crystal. Yeah. Yeah, you're thinking anger management. Yeah. Analyze This is Billy Crystal and De Niro.
You're
Billy Crystal is the psychologist. I'd say Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
I'd say Billy Crystal. He's a little younger.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I think in the day, De Niro was
Jack Nicholson.
Built like a little Italian Adonis.
What makes me movies again? It's not De Niro. It's Nicholson. No, it's not. God.
No, it's De Niro. You keep messing it
But
up.
just
You
move
keep going
past.
back to anger management. Okay, moving on. I have some
movie,
questions
right?
for
They're
you.
the same movie, aren't they?
I mean, they both have angry people who need psychologists.
Yeah.
The difference is De Niro is a mob member, a mafia member, and that's how Billy Crystal gets connected with him. And it ends up being this friendship, but it's kind of a turmoiled friendship in the beginning of the movie. Anger management is, of course, Adam Sandler, Jack Nicholson, are just regular people.
Hey,
Not
Corey, we did it. We just became two guys doing a movie podcast. We're the first guys. We're the first two guys ever to do a movie podcast on early 2000s movies.
How many are there? I mean, there's so many. Like movie review podcast. There's one that I used to listen to with one of the guys from the league. Who's the guy that has the gap in his teeth?
Paul Shear's on there.
Yeah. That's a good podcast. I used to listen to that all the time. I remember they did like Baby's Day Out, and it was like the funniest take on a movie.
Jumbo drop.
It was awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna just random questions. I have this like random interview question book. Like, believe it or not, it's 3,000 questions. So I like to just like randomly turn pages, flip pages, and then I look for a question to ask.
These are about the AV industry.
No, this is for you.
Okay.
We're learning about you. We may talk a little bit about the AV industry, but we're learning about you. This is the perfect question, by the way, and I'm hoping you answer correctly because there is a right or wrong. What is your favorite way to spend a Sunday?
Playing hockey.
My man.
Playing hockey, and then hang out at the hockey bar for like 3 hours, and hopefully my wife isn't texting me the entire time saying, "When are you going to be home from the hockey bar?" But that's
Beers with the boys.
And if you want to throw a Browns game on top of that, a Browns victory, like happening like at the sports bar after the game, that's probably the way to do it.
Yeah, that's a good trifecta. If you want to take it a step further, it's great to watch the Browns win and like the Bengals, Ravens, or Steelers lose at the same time. Like that is, I'm not sure that I could.
Especially in Cincinnati, in the bar and where we play, Cincinnati, because it's all full of grouchy Bengals fans. Watch them feel salty as they lose and the Browns. Speaking of which, can we get shout outs to Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year?
Defensive Player of the Year.
And Coach Stefanski, Coach of the Year. And Jim Schwartz, Assistant
Coach of the Year. I know. It's crazy.
And Joey Flacco, Comeback Player of the Year.
Comeback Player. I know, dude. It's crazy. 4. And what we had, Cleveland Browns had 5 Pro Bowlers this year. Yeah. Just great. Like no one cares about the Pro Bowl.
Pros like they're the best team in the NFL.
I mean, if you would look at all the awards, they're definitely the best team in the NFL that didn't make it past the first round of playoffs.
Is this a Browns podcast now?
Now, what's crazy, and this is what I think is crazy about the Browns season, is that you know as well as I do, following the Browns, they're riddled with. I mean, Nick Chubb going out, I was like, that's it, it's over. Nick Chubb getting his leg absolutely just crushed. I was like, it's over. Like the season's over. Just pack everything up, move on. We'll look towards the next season. And then somehow they just kept putting pieces into place that just kept them moving. Kareem Hunt coming back. Huge pickup in terms of like offsetting what they do at the running back position. Deshaun Watson, crap the bed big time. Horrible quarterback. Horrible. Guaranteed $230 million. Horrible quarterback. Somehow we got to get rid of that. Like just get it out. And then Flacco comes in, and there's this like resurgence of energy in the team. He's a locker room leader, which is what the team desperately needed, I think, at the time. And oh, by the way, guy throws a bomb. His arm is a can. It's a literal can. He's 38 years old and went out there and played like he was 27. It's incredible.
I saw a meme, and it was like a picture of a guy wearing a Browns Joe Flacco jersey, and said, "I want to go back to 2015, explain this to like 2015 me."
Appropriate. You know what made me kind of sad this year is I've always been a big Baker Mayfield fan. And I know he's like kind of a love it or hate it guy. I liked him in Cleveland, and then he goes to Tampa and they figure out how to utilize him. They build a decent offense around him, and now he's going to make bank in Tampa.
Yeah, good for Bake.
I know. It made me feel good, but then at the same time, I'm like, can we bring Baker back?
I was actually afraid that they were gonna like go on a hot streak and like win the whole thing, and then it'd be like the most like LOL Browns thing possible. People be like, oh, you guys drafted the right quarterback for once, you traded him.
Yeah, it still could happen. I mean, they're a good team. Dude. How is like Mike Evans?
It's very good.
One of the best receivers that no one talks about. It's like 10 straight seasons over 1,000 yards. Like that's insane. And no one ever talks about it. Just quietly kind of just goes away. They talk about everybody that makes waves, and so the guy who's putting up the stats and putting up the numbers.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, he's incredible. Anyway, Yeah, this just turned into a Browns podcast. I'm going to change my backlighting to orange here in a second.
Yeah, good.
Have you ever used money to influence anyone?
I'm sure I have. I mean, I buy things, right? Like,
Would you like this diamond?
I've never like been a party to like money laundering or like extortion. Like,
Maybe.
Of course, I've used money to influence. Like, if kids, I tell them to do their chores.
That's true.
I tell them. Levi was my oldest kid's playing basketball. Like, he wasn't hustling hard enough or doing the things you want a kid to be doing playing sports.
You said you'd give him money?
I was like, I'm going to give you 50 cents every rebound you go out there and grab. And sure shit, he goes out there and grabs like 3 rebounds all of a sudden. It's like, oh, there you go. Look at that. So yes, I am.
That's to your own children.
Yeah,
which is
people that don't try to take away the personhood.
Have you ever done that to like a friend or an adult?
I mean, in college, I'm sure I bet someone some money to do some stupid, drink this, eat that kind of thing. I'll give you $5,
Oh, yeah.
I know. I had a friend of mine who did the gallon of milk challenge in college. And I was like, everyone threw in like $10. If you finish the gallon of milk, you get the $10.
And he did throw up
on the table. He did not finish,
and it didn't work. Yeah, no one does. It is an impossibility, right? Technically.
I mean, I'm sure somebody can do it, but I think I don't think it's really supposed to be done. The human body is not designed to ingest a gallon of milk.
I don't think our bodies are designed to ingest a gallon of cow's milk.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's the cow's milk part of it. If it was a gallon of human milk, it'd be no problem at all. It's cow's milk. Let's not go down the anti-dairy train here.
No, I'm not going down anti-dairy. I'm not anti-dairy. I drank whole milk last night. I had whole milk with my cereal last night.
Yeah, a gallon of oat milk could be no problem. It's the gallon of cow's milk that's the problem.
No, what I'm saying is does it not feel grosser knowing that it's a gallon of cow's milk that you're ingesting as opposed, I guess there's not really any other great milk. By the way, can we stop it with the whole like nut milk thing? It's juice. It's not milk. You can't milk a nut. It's just juice. That's all it is. It's nut juice. Am I right? Like there's recipes where people are like putting them in blenders.
Sound grosser. It's for some reason saying I'm having almond milk does sound more appealing. I'm having almond juice. Just like I was saying, I'm having a glass of orange milk. I'm having a glass of orange juice. It just sounds like fruit sounds better as a juice, and nuts sound better.
Like how did a nut become milk? I just don't understand.
I think coconut's milk.
Like you don't milk a nut the same way you milk a cow. Like you have to like chop it up, and then you have to like. Have you ever seen like squeeze it?
Yeah, you gotta get your mortar and pestle out.
Pretty much, and it's just like the whole process just doesn't make sense, and you're just extracting juice. There's no milk, and we're just calling it this thing that it just isn't. And I don't like going to the store and seeing almond milk or cashew milk. I think cashew juice is better. I think almond juice is better. Sunflower juice. I don't know if you do that. Sunflowers are seeds; they're not even nuts. So I guess that really doesn't apply, does it?
Sunflowers make oil. I guess sunflowers make oil, grapeseed oil.
By the way, that's the new hype. Seed oils are bad for you, apparently. So there's that we get to contend with now from a health perspective.
We're all olive over here.
Oh, same. Extra virgin olive oil.
EVRB,
sure.
baby.
That's the way to do it. I learned that from Rachel Ray.
Rachel Ray. Org stars.
Well, do you remember her show? She would always be like, and and she put extra virgin olive oil in everything. And she's just the EVO, like all the time. Just like, I mean, I'm pretty sure she has that whole like new line of dog food. I think she just extra virgin olive oil.
It's just hardened olive oil.
That's all it is. Just chunked like extra virgin olive oil, just solidified. Somehow they're sprinkling proteins and carbs and wheat and the whole thing in there. But it's probably the base of it's probably 50% extra virgin olive oil. If I had to guess, Rachel Ray. Great, by the way, great food and like food host, like food now. And then she has like her own like TV show now. Not as good. Not a fan. Like the whole daytime thing.
Chili in a Rachel Ray branded Dutch oven.
That you're doing that today?
Yeah. Nice.
It is kind of chilly weather, although it's unseasonably warm where we're at right now. What, 60s roughly? Yeah. And I didn't say that because like, for the people who are listening to this is obviously being recorded virtually, but you and I are very close to each other. We're not that far away. Like I could be at your house in 15 minutes. So we're both in Ohio. I could be, but I have things to do, clearly. Clearly I have things to do today. Anyway, I have one more question for you. What is the meaning of life?
Stupid question.
It is a very stupid question. I immediately regretted it as soon as it came out of my mouth. Um, what's your favorite dessert? Are you a dessert guy? I don't think I've ever
I'm
seen
not
you
a
eat a
dessert
sweet.
guy.
You're not a dessert guy.
Ice cream would be pretty much like what I go to, but it makes my tummy
That's
rumbly,
it.
so I don't get a whole ice cream. But I know I was
Yeah, but you don't, from a palatability perspective, you don't have a craving for sweets. So you a salty, savory type of person?
I like a brownie. It's got like a little sprinkle of like sea salt on top of there, or like a nice like a soft like chocolate chip cookie. But like I don't like frosting is gross. Like frosting on
Frosting's
cake or
disgusting.
like cupcakes are the apps. Like you get a cupcake, it's got like a mountain, like a troll's dull hair's worth of frosting on top of those things. It's gross.
Horrific. It's disgusting.
The press, the squeezed out, like the ribbons of frosting. I don't want anything to do with that. So
I will completely remove that little frosting tower off of a cupcake completely and just eat I love cake. Don't love frosting. I used to put powdered sugar, just a little spritz of powdered sugar on a freshly baked cake. No icing, just a spritz of powdered sugar. That was the way to do it. But I'm the same way, kind of like the offset savoriness. Like if I have a chocolate caramel, I like the sea salt on top. Like that's good. I like that offset.
when I was a kid, I didn't know what a scone was, but for some reason I wanted to have a scone. So what I would do is I'd make a waffle. I'd make like a standard like Eggo waffle in the toaster, and I would spread strawberry jelly all over the waffle, and I'd sprinkle powdered sugar on it, and I'd eat that, and like it was and I say my parents were making a scone, and they're like, "That's not what a scone is." It's not. Now I know what a scone is. It could be further from the truth, but
it's the furthest away from what you just described. It's the furthest away from what you described. Okay, I have one more question for you. What sort of food will you indulge in, and for what reasons would you indulge in it? Some of it, like to me, there's a psychology sometimes to an indulgence of food, like taking you back to childhood or whatever. So what are some foods that you like, that you enjoy, that you'll absolutely just go hog wild on?
I like meals that that you can put everything on one big plate and it all just like smushes together into one like bite. Like I love
That's the chili
one, but like I actually think I like we do pork and sauerkraut on New Year's Day, my family, and like it's just like gob of potatoes, gob of sauerkraut, gob of pork, and just like stir it all together and eat it. It's fantastic. Like those kind of like comfort food meals where it's just like lots of potatoes, lots of gravy or something that goes on top of it, meat.
So like from
pot roast.
So from like Thanksgiving to Christmas, you're in heaven, or Thanksgiving to New Year, you're like, I'm
up like 6 pounds since.
You'll get the summer bod will come back soon enough. It feels like spring now. We're not anywhere calendar wise. We're nowhere near spring. And we're inching closer to it, but outside right now it's sunny and 60 degrees, which is phenomenal. Do you ever find it interesting that pork and sauerkraut is really just celebrated and eaten on the first day of the year? Because we're the same way, but it's a great meal. Everybody if you eat it, you recognize it as a really good meal, but you're only going to eat it one time.
We actually have it probably about 3 times a year. My mom makes really good.
Really?
We eat it a lot. I'll have like, we don't have it in the summer because nothing's really appetizing. You don't want to have a piping hot plate of sauerkraut when it's 95 degrees.
It's like eating soup in the summer. Like you're not eating soup in summer. Like I don't want a hot chicken noodle soup when it's 90 degrees outside and I got to mow the grass. It just doesn't make sense. But is it special occasion, or is that like the other 2 instances random?
It's just random. Like you just kind of get a hankering.
I wish we would do that more, because the general consensus with my family is like, this is so good, why don't we eat it more often? And then we just wait for January 1 to hit, and then we make it.
Your entire life, Cory. You could just go ahead and make it.
That's the wild thing, though. That's the wild thing. That's why I think I'm being controlled. And going back to the artificial intelligence piece of it, I think we're being controlled by other beings. I truly believe that.
You can't prove to me they're not a simulation.
I know. That's crazy, right? You can't prove to me that the Earth is round. So
very
simply, we can figure that one out. I do have, just turning to technology for a second, or back to technology for a second. One of the things that isn't new, it's not like a hot and heavy thing, but it's certainly, I think in a transitional phase, is like OLED technology, direct vLED technology. Obviously, like cost is collapsing, capability in terms of like installation and commissioning, some of the supporting product around it, like the mounting systems, all of it's becoming easier, all of it's becoming less expensive. I wanted to ask you this question because I was looking at the wall in my living room the other day, and I go, a fine pixel pitch direct vLED spread all over my wall from corner to corner would look awesome. And I'm like, The technology is there now, to where that's kind of a reason. Expense wise,
Have you ever been in front of a direct LED video wall before?
yeah, of course.
It's that good to raise the temperature in the room by about 20 degrees if you had that entire wall
Hey,
covered.
listen. Yeah, well, that's why you got to put it on an outside wall, baby. You got to get that wall where the wind's blowing against the house just to keep it cool. It's just a built-in cooling system. I can route some ventilation from the outside in. You could definitely do that.
Liquid
Yeah,
through there.
probably likely get a sunburn before I get too hot, honestly. Get a direct LED burn. 5 feet away from it and then just wake up the next morning and my face is completely bright red. But do you think that at all there's viability in the near future that direct LED technology collapses in price? And for the consumer perspective, because it's really the only technology that I know of that has existed where the commercial applications came before the consumer applications. Typically, consumer demands what we do in the commercial environment. But with direct LED, it all started with commercial, but now there's this consideration for consumer. I think even like, I don't know if it was LeBron James, I'm just picking a famous basketball player, it could be any one of them, but somebody has already, and actually there's a few of them that have direct LED technology built into their homes where it's like, hey, I wanted something that I could more design and deliver in a way that either cascades over an entire wall or is positioned in a certain way, and the dvLED technology is the most applicable for those kinds of applications. So
I think that it was interesting bringing it up because we talked about this when I was in Austin this past week, talking with the folks from Peerless and Sharp.
The University of Austin in Massachusetts.
That's right. That's what I said. But they were asking about direct view, and I think there's still a lot of mystery around it. I think the challenge with direct view is that there's not many standards in place yet. So you still have all these manufacturers who have different size cabinets, different size chassis, and different size bevels, and the mounting is all over the place. Between like you have a custom mount, you have a universal mount. Like it's not to a point yet where someone can just walk into Best Buy and pick up a display and pick up a mount and hang it on their wall at home. Like I can mount 7 TVs in my house like over the next 6 hours because I know how to do it. But
right,
the knowledge isn't there yet for mounting a direct view wall, putting it together, and like knowing how to assemble the players and everything. So I think there's still some room to grow, I think, in getting all the manufacturer kind of on the same page. And that's like same thing happened with displays, like the VESA mount pattern, like established itself right, because of the need to simplify things and make it more knowable and understandable. And that's, I think we especially distribution, like we're so used to being able to just throw them out onto a display order. It's like when we know it's going to fit because we know how VESA patterns work, but or VESA. I worked at Legrand for 10 years. I don't know how to say VESA or VESA, but there is.
Hey, I worked at Legrand, and I don't know how to say Legrand. Some people say Legrand, some people say Legrand. Who knows?
Hey, potato, man.
That's actually an interesting point because even thinking about it in the commercial environment, there's certain applications where it's like obviously very applicable, right? Like viewing distance wise, like even if it's like an open lobby setting, like direct LED makes sense. You walk through an airport, if you're looking at like advertisements on a large wall, direct LED makes sense. But the other consideration for it is just not the technology and deploying it, and some of the complexities, as you've said, with that, challenges with mounting systems, not having standards, even from processing, like all over the place, right? Or calibration of the systems all over the place. But I think one of the other things that a lot of people don't think about is what does post support look like? So once the system is in place, and you have a module go bad, you have pixels that go bad, what's the repair process for that? I think that's one of the challenges in like it moving towards a consumer environment too, is like, how do you actually support it when something goes wrong, when something breaks? Like when it comes to standard displays, that stuff's really built in. Like once you buy the TV, it's already built in, it's baked in. Doing things like pixel repair, understanding processing and all that is just much more complicated.
Yeah, like how many extra panels, how many extra modules you have to buy because
right,
if one burns out, now you have the color disparity between panel A and panel B, and like how do you keep it uniform? The other thing too, as you and I know, like even when it comes to just installing the stuff, like we have a whole bunch of install partners that we work with, and we only send direct view projects to a few of them because it's still a specialized and largely intimidating process for a lot of our install partners who haven't figured out how to do it yet. So there's still, I think, a lot of knowledge out there that needs to be gained. I think it'll be because it feels inaccessible because there is no standards, and it's kind of like, I think people are going to have to come to terms with it because it's definitely, I mean, we see the growth in it. But I think we need to get the knowledge level has to be up first.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I one thing that I didn't consider, which you make a great point on, is the standardization around certain things. Like that is a major consideration for how direct VLED is going to be deployed in the future. Because I think if you don't do that, because what you have now is you have manufacturers that are designing direct VLED systems, and like for the all-in-ones, it's fine because it's kind of like an all-encapsulated. Here's this bundled kit. Here's how you deploy. Those are pretty easy. If you're talking about like a 108 or a 136 or 165, like that's pretty easy to do. It's when you get into the custom stuff where it becomes a little bit more challenging to navigate because those standards don't exist. And you have manufacturers who are creating their own mounting systems, which are, I would say, suboptimal in a lot of cases. But then you've got to go to someone like a Legrand, a Chief, or a Peerless, and you have to do this just intense customization. And they have their own experience and discipline around that stuff. And it's highly custom. It's not like I'm just going to go on to Peerless's site and go, well, this is exactly what I need. Add quantity 20 to cart by now.
The industry is so accustomed to it's just, I type in a panel and it just tells me what the mount I need is. And it's not as clear cut.
Yeah, definitely not. I want to move on to, and this is, I like the general interest around this because I think this particular topic was one of which was highly talked about through the pandemic. Like, how do we appropriately communicate to people from a remote perspective? And Zoom and Microsoft Teams and a lot of what we're doing now has bridged that gap to a degree, but people wanted that like real life representation. So the holographic technology came in, and we used to carry a company called Art Media, which we no longer carry anymore, which may lend itself to the what this conversation, the rabbit hole that we're getting ready to go down. But do you think holographic technology makes sense? And by the way, it's not like holographic technology is new at all. It's just
we can obviously holograph in like Tupac to do like a concert, from alongside Biggie.
Right.
So we have holograph for both then, but you get that.
Yeah, and holographic technology, it's not like, it's like VR technology. I remember like going to Kings Island when I was a kid, and there was the VR experience that you could do inside the 1 building next to the ice cream shop. And I'm not saying it was good. I don't ever remember doing it. I'm obviously much more advanced now, but it's not like it's a new thing. Just like holographic technology is not a new thing, but does it have viability? Is there applicability? I know the cost is prohibitive completely, but this was like during the pandemic, this was the dynamic of being able to communicate to effectively, or hopefully effectively, to a mass audience as you would before the pandemic, before shutdowns and the whole thing, in a very similar real life manner. I'm not sure it hit though. I'm not sure it hit. Based on everything that I've seen, it seemed a little bit clunky. Setup seemed to be clunky, and it just didn't have that real life intimate experience.
I mean, apart from like doing it as like a gimmick, like I don't mean, this is me personally, and I'm an idiot, but like I don't see the benefit in it beyond. I don't see it being any better than just having a big video wall. Like if you want to do a presentation to a giant crowd of people in an auditorium, if you can't be there in person, like putting it on a big projection screen and loudspeakers is just as effective as, if not more effective, than having like a little, Obi-Wan Kenobi hologram like walking around on the screen. Like,
yeah, that's honestly, man, I felt the same way about it when I first saw it. It almost seemed like, ooh, that's neat. Like that, my reaction was like, oh, that's neat. And then I go, okay, well, what's the real viability here? And are people going to take to it? And one of the things I was thinking about, because I watched this demo video a couple years back, where it was like someone, walking across the stage, and obviously they're remote. They're somewhere far different.
They're
right?
like the sound studio. Like,
yeah, they're in a sound studio and a green screen, and
you had to build like an entire
build a studio. Yeah. And then the whole ambition was to build studios in like every major city, so you could be. And I know that scalability has not happened. I know that for a fact. But what I thought was interesting, and what I kept thinking about in my head was, what's it going to look like when you project this person on a stage and they're in their studio and they accidentally fall or trip? What is that going to look like? It's gone. It just vanished. It's like they look like they hit the ground, but then they're gone. Like, it'd be cool if there was some sort of auto calibration or something generated in that if someone accidentally fell, they just went up in like a cloud of dust. It just went poof. Like, I thought that would be cool.
I mean, if I could get like my phone to project a hologram in the front of me, and like it could be like a literal like Star Wars kind of thing, then like that's kind of neat. Like,
that is neat.
If I had a big giant floating Cory face right here next to me, like talking at me, like that may have some merit over like me have to go to an auditorium and sit there and watching some other guy in another auditorium halfway across the globe. Like, just
It's strange, right?
yeah.
And I also think about like in an auditorium setting, there's those times, there's been instances throughout history where something is not being well received and people throw like lettuce and tomatoes. You can't do that at a hologram.
Yeah,
Which
that's what you want, right? You want to be able to have the ability to throw your
Yes.
tomatoes at the person when they're not performing.
Yes, I want my auditorium experience to mimic that of like the Renaissance Fair,
Yeah.
like 100%. I want lettuce and tomatoes,
Giant turkey
and
leg.
I want, and I want a deep fried turkey leg. I don't want to chuck the turkey leg though; must be consumed. You can't chuck the turkey leg.
Yeah, you want a flagoon of ale.
Exact, dude. Yes, no, we're speaking the same language now.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
There's no impact on a hologram.
This isn't the question that you asked, but since it's kind of in the same ballpark, the videos I keep seeing of the guys walking around with the Apple Glass like headset, they're walking around like pointing in this like Iron Man,
like the guy on the subway who's just like doing this in the crowd of people, and he's just typing away.
Are those real videos? Are those people actually? Are people doing that just to be filmed doing it so they can make like a little? Because I don't trust Instagram anymore. I think everything is staged. So I want to be part of one. Is like, is this guy having his buddy film him walking across the street doing like this just to get views, or is that an actual person earnestly walking around across the street and expanding his browser windows?
So the clips that you've seen, because I've seen the same clips where it just shows the hilarity of someone like walking down the street looking like they're typing. But if you actually look at some of the videos of which those videos were clipped from, it will show you like, here's my goggle view of me doing this thing, and then here's the external view of me doing the same thing. So you can see the keyboard. Like there's one of a guy who's like repositioning TVs within his room so he can watch like certain broadcasts on the thing. There's the other guy who's like typing on the keyboard. And that's the same one who's the kid who's on the subway. So it shows it from multiple views. I'm not saying some of them, I'm sure some of them are staged where it just, this looks ridiculous, but some of them are showing like real life examples to where there's an external clip and then here's the view from my actual goggles. I think they're cool. I like the idea of it. And I think there's room for that thing to expand for sure, especially the Apple ones. I like the Apple Vision ones. But VR technology still kind of is squirrely to me because I put on VR goggles. I don't enjoy the experience.
I get motion sickness when I put them on. I did like a flight simulator thing one time, and like I was like looking around trying to like track like enemy bogeys, and like it was just making me feel queasy.
It's a little much, but I like the application of like being able to. Not that I want to do more work. I certainly don't want to do that. But like even with the Apple ones, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that I could just like flip out this virtual keyboard and just begin doing things and in places that I otherwise wouldn't be able to do them. That's all the topics I had. That's it. That's it. Did you have fun?
I had fun. Yes, I always have fun with you, Cory.
I know. Me too. John, thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Yeah, it was great. I'm
only doing like one of these a month, but if the general consensus is you and John were really fun, I'm probably going to forego other guests and I'm just going to say, John, just
hashtag bring back Bournes. It's on, it's trending right now.
Bring back Bournes. I love it. All right. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.